Dad excluded me from his party because I remind him of his ex-wife, so I confronted him, told him I was done, and left him to deal with his pain. His cousin's Instagram account revealed the invitation on her counter. Time and location of David's 50th family party. Brother Michael said he checked on work that night. 15 minutes of chat before he casually divulged his Friday stuff, asking, "What thing?" "Just some dinner." He knew. Knowing and deceiving. "Is it Dad's birthday party?" Silence. "Then how did you find out?" "So it's true. He invited everyone except me. Maybe he just hasn't gotten around to inviting you yet." 3 days to celebrate. Michael, look, I don't want to get in the middle of this. You're already in the middle. You're going to a party I'm not invited to. He sighed. "What do you want me to do?" "Not go. I want you to ask him why his daughter isn't invited." "You know why?" Everyone knew why. I resembled Mom. Same black hair, green eyes, petite nose. The mirror showed her face every morning. Face of our family-destroying woman. I drove to Dad's Thursday. He fixed anything needless in the garage. He always got away. "Hey Dad." Every time he saw me his face tensed like he didn't want to pay me. "What are you doing here? Can I visit my father?" "I'm busy," returning to his workshop. "Are you having a party Friday?" His shoulders stiffened. "Who told you?" "Does it matter?" "Why wasn't I invited?" Later he turned and glared at me coldly. "You know why?" "No, I don't. Every time I look at you I see her. Same eyes, same nose, same lying face. Mom cheated on him 10 years ago. I was 10. Michael was 12. She moved to Arizona with the other man and had children. No sighting since. I'm not her." I said, "I'm your daughter." I stayed. "I chose you." "Doesn't matter. You look just like her, sound like her, even stand like her. That's not my fault. I don't care whose fault it is. I can't have you there. Not for my birthday. Not with everyone watching thinking about what she did. But Michael looks like her too. We're siblings. We have the same mother. Michael looks like me. Acts like me. You're all her. Every gesture. Every laugh. Everything." Returning to tools. "Please leave." "Dad, I've been here every Father's Day, every Christmas. Even when you barely acknowledged me." I said leave. I sat in my car for an hour before going home. Thinking about how he saw me as transparent. Every school event where Dad shouted for Michael but hardly clapped for me. Dad taught Michael to drive but not me, stating I could figure it out. Pizza, TV, and ignoring his housing problem were my Friday plans. Michael texted party pics. Everyone came. I hadn't seen family in years. My granny, who hardly traveled, was from Florida. Every shot left me missing Michael, my granny, or my cousins laughing. My face was wrong, so I was home alone. Michael called Sunday morning. "It was weird without you, was it? But you still went. You still chose his side." "There aren't sides. He's our father, he's your father. Apparently, I'm just a reminder of his ex-wife." "That's not fair." "Fair? He excluded me from a family party because of my genetics. Tell me what's fair about that." Silence. "He's hurting." Michael finally confessed to 10 years of anguish. So have I. The difference is I didn't abandon my child over it. I returned to his house Monday. This time no knock. My lost key was utilized. He organized birthday cards at the kitchen table. Probably never sent thanks. His words were, "Get out," without looking. No. Across from him. "You need to hear this. She did it to all of us. I lost my father and Michael our mother. Despite sitting here, he left when I was 10. Worst part? I kept stopping by, hoping you'd see me instead of her. I'm done trying to earn something that should be free. Michael can have you all to himself. Where are you going?" My head swirled while grinning. He ran toward me in terror before going dark. David's face and trembling hands were on my shoulder as I woke up on the kitchen floor. The sirens outside were becoming louder, and I knew he called 911 while I was away. Paramedics entered the main door seconds later. Short blonde women and bearded men lugging equipment bags. David raced to give them room, his face white and terrified like never before. The female paramedic knelt beside me and put 2 fingers on my wrist while asking my name and location. When I replied, my voice was weak and scratchy. She used a spotlight to test my eyes, told me to follow her finger, and then cuffed my arm. David stood against the counter, wringing his hands, and stated I fainted after fighting while the male paramedic delivered equipment. David was questioned about my medical history, medicines and diseases by the female paramedic. He stumbled through answers, acknowledging his ignorance. She raised her eyebrows at him and me, feeling the tension. She scowled at my blood pressure and told her friend to move me onto a stretcher with chest and leg restraints. The male paramedic hesitated before agreeing to take David in the ambulance. Backloaded me. The female paramedic entered with me as David sat on the side bench. She gave me an oxygen mask, linked me to a beeping cardiac monitor and asked about chest pain and dizziness. I said I was dizzy before passing out, but not chest pain, just fatigue. David sat across from me, thin and shivering, hands on knees. David moved to grab my hand while the paramedic wrote more questions on a tablet. Halfway across us, his arm stopped, fingers extended. He hung his hand for a moment before bringing it back and placing both hands on his thighs. We kept quiet as the ambulance wheeled and the siren cut through traffic. I was ushered through automatic doors into a bright corridor smelling like emergency department disinfectant and floor cleaner. I was taken from the stretcher to a hospital bed by a nurse in a curtained area. David followed but appeared lost and uneasy at the entrance. Dr. Harrison, a tall gentleman with glasses and gray hair, came shortly after. He examined my pulse, eyes, heart and lungs after examining the paramedic's notes. He asked about the fall, what I ate, how much water I drank, and stress. He kept gazing between me and David, anticipating trouble. David silently stared at his hands like they belonged to someone else in a corner chair. Dr. Harrison indicated I had a significant stress-induced dehydration and low blood sugar episode. My body shut down from a perfect storm. He said to test and monitor me. The nurse with an IV kit cleansed my arm and inserted the needle neatly. She bandaged it, put a fluid bag on a pole, and adjusted the drip rate. I was exhausted and closed my eyes when I heard footsteps. She suggested me to remain for at least 3 hours while they monitored and rehydrated me. Michael inquired what happened, and I opened my eyes to see him by my bedside in his party dress shirt. He worriedly eyed David and me. David raspily stated I fainted at his house. Michael widened his eyes as he glanced at our father, knowing there was more to the narrative than that simple statement. Michael pulled David toward the door and signaled him to enter the corridor, and I could hear their conversation through the closed door. Michael wanted to hear what I said before I fell in anger. I demonstrated David's case and charged him clearly. Michael yelled at David that excluding me from the party was unjust and uncomfortable. Sophia entered with my phone charger and apartment bag after they argued, words blurring. Sophia looked at David and Michael through the door glass, wondering whether he brought me. Michael nodded, and she walked to my bed instead of the hallway drama. She softly asked what I wanted and whether David should leave, but her eyes were strict. When I told her I didn't have the energy to cope with David, my voice broke. Sophia answered the door and kindly but forcefully told David to go home and allow me rest. David opened and closed his mouth to protest. Michael said Dad had done enough for one day and encouraged Sophia. David sagged and walked along the hospital corridor, looking 10 years older. Dr. Harrison returned with a tablet with test results showing I was worried, emaciated from poor diet, and had dangerously high blood pressure for my age. He instantly asked whether I was secure and if the family conflict that brought me here was ongoing. It broke my heart to answer the question and tell you about the birthday party and being shunned because I looked like my mother. Dr. Harrison's professional demeanor softened as he listened. He suggested me to see my regular doctor and a therapist since stress was making me sick. He said the breakdown was my body asking me to stop and face my issues. Michael knelt by my bed, looking apologetic, and took my hand. Unfortunately, he should have faced Dad years ago instead of going the easy route. Sophia kept one hand on my shoulder on my other side. Karen appeared in her party dress, her face twisted with fury I'd never seen against her son. She instantly grabbed my free hand and held it lovingly at my bedside. She apologized for not coming up sooner about David's abuse of me. Shaking with anguish, Michael was shocked by her harshness. Karen told us she had been seeing this dysfunction for years and that her silence made her complicit. She should have intervened sooner rather than expecting David to change. Karen grasped my hand harder and put a stern line on her face as she chose. She stated she confronted David at the party why his kid wasn't invited to a family celebration in front of everyone after I left. David allegedly said I resembled my mother. Karen called her son's comments the worst. Shakingly, she describes. Several aunts and cousins paused to listen. David went red and tried to escape, but she followed. After hearing the whole situation and discovering I was excluded, Isabella and others texted me worried messages. Karen says others seemed uncomfortable, like they knew it was wrong yet did it. She says she'll stay in town for a few more days, whether David likes it or not, to talk to him about his conduct. Michael nods from his chair, glad someone finally spoke to Dad instead of being uncomfortable. Around 5:30 that night, Dr. Harrison comes with discharge papers and a serious look. He suggests rest, nutrition, and my normal doctor in 2 days. He provides me references and claims my body is giving me clear indicators I can't ignore. I take a useless stress management pamphlet once the nurse removes my IV. Sophia accepts before I can struggle to stay at Michael's and not go home alone. She texted herself my apartment key code to bring me clothes and everything. Karen extends her hotel stay, signaling this is settled. She'll stay till David sees his error. I can walk, but the nurse pulls me in a wheelchair. Apparently hospital policy. Michael's automobile arrives at the pickup. Sophia drives to get my things. After a day in the hospital, the evening air is cold and I'm still wearing my crash gear. Michael's one-bedroom apartment contains a shabby couch and a small kitchen for two. He hovers over me on the couch, asking what I want to eat, how I feel, and what I need. Sophia brings a bag with my clothes, toiletries, phone charger, and basics. Her 15-minute absence shows she moved fast. Michael orders Thai from down the block and expects a big meal. Although my stomach aches, I eat pad Thai when it arrives. I sit across from Michael, who apologizes for attending the party and not challenging Dad's exclusion. He feels he should have boycotted to show solidarity and make a statement. They sound tired and flat. I'm heartbroken he left me. When Michael admits to fear about losing Dad, his face crumples. In fear Dad would reject me if he backed me. He took the easy way. He knows how cowardly he was. I don't argue with him because we agree. Sophia sleeps on Michael's couch the first night while I use his bed and he uses a floor sleeping bag. Immediately, he offers the bedroom. No debate. Me in the bedroom doorway, Sophia on the couch, Michael on the floor. We discuss my years of rejection. I remember making honor roll in 8th grade and David hardly looking at my report card before watching TV with Michael. Or my high school graduation, when he took one photo of me and 40 of Michael despite graduating the same year. Sophia listens silently, her visage tightening with each story. I clench and cry as she says, I've been living in survival mode, constantly trying to prove I deserve basic parental affection that should have been freely given. Michael sits up in his sleeping bag and says he never knew how bad it was. He believed Dad was harder with me, not rejecting me. Avoidance, high expectations and emotional desertion are different. We talk till about 1 a.m. till fatigue wins. Michael's phone rings at 7 the next morning. I hear him reject the call while making coffee in the kitchen. Rings frequently. Looking anxious, he brings me coffee in bed after putting it to quiet. Texts loud enough to hear the other room buzz arrive about 8 o'clock. Michael reads from the doorway. Flat-voiced David inquires about my health. Not sure I'm okay. Michael says I'm alive and recovering, but Dad should give me space. Another text asks when David can see me. Seconds later Michael glances at me, and I shake my head. He texts that I decide, not David. Michael places the phone face down on the counter once it stops talking because he hates looking at it. So I eat breakfast, scrambled eggs, and toast because Sophia is watching me and won't take no. Isabella brings flowers, white daisies, and a cheap grocery store arrangement to Michael's door at noon. Her puffy red eyes imply crying. She puts the flowers on the couch and apologizes for leaving the party invitation where I can see it when Michael allows her in. After Karen's party, she realized I wasn't invited. She speaks fast like she's practicing. Isabella is devastated that I found out through her social media post. She claims family murmured about David's roughness throughout the party, but no one left. She regrets that now and wishes someone had left to speak instead of eating cake awkwardly. I don't blame her for the Instagram post and enjoy her attendance. After sobbing and hugging me, she departs and vows to return. The next 3 days at Michael's place are spent sleeping more than months. Sophia uses her laptop on Michael's couch to work remotely. Family trauma and forgiveness versus letting others pain are extensively discussed. She explains limits and self-protection plainly, like she meant it. Sophia tells me she left her toxic father 2 years ago because he criticized everything she did and made her feel useless. She says choosing mental health over a bad relationship was worth the embarrassment and agony since she wasn't always preparing for his judgment. She says she misses him occasionally, but she misses her father. For reference, I write the difference in my phone notes. Second day, Karen asks a visit. She delivers homemade soup in a jar, chicken and rice an hour later. Michael becomes angry when Karen sits next to me and honestly describes David's conduct. She claims David was shocked when my mother left, hurt by the betrayal, but punishing me for it makes no sense. Karen regrets not acting sooner, claiming she saw him reject me and thought he needed time to recuperate. She backed his behavior by not speaking up when he treated me like an invisible person. Karen cries out saying seeing him reject his daughter was her saddest nightmare. She disappointed us by expecting him to change. Karen kept talking after Michael handed her tea. She's been in treatment for a year, repenting for encouraging David's abuse of me by staying silent. She believed letting him grieve would cure him, but he converted his pain into eternal rejection. Karen says she's done protecting David from his behavior. He must apologize to me and accept help to improve his relationship with her, she stated. Telling him, not asking. She looks hospital-lined, and I believe her. Michael is surprised by her intensity and views his granny differently. Michael drives me to my usual doctor's appointment on Friday morning, 2 days after the collapse. Dr. Harrison ordered. The doctor carefully reviews my ER record, asking about stress, nutrition, and sleep. She's honest, but I enjoy it, telling me I have chronic stress disorder and must make major changes to prevent significant health consequences. She describes dire consequences including heart, stomach, and immune system failure. My doctor writes a family trauma therapist's name and number on her prescription pad. She also recommended I take 2 weeks off work to recover and handle my illness. I grab the memo, relieved and apprehensive to tell my boss Michael softly brings me home. We discuss the doctor's warning about David's stress harming my health. 2 days later, Michael brings me home and helps me transfer Sophia's stuff from his house. My fridge with bright sticky notes greets me when I open my door. Each features Sophia's writing. "You've got this," on orange juice. Yogurt containers say "proud of you." 1 day at a time. Milk. Lunches, salads, sandwiches, and frozen dinners to cook were everywhere. Michael departs after placing my belongings in the bedroom and asking 3 times whether I'm okay. My chest tightens when the environment is quiet. I find more notes in Sophia's cutlery drawer, bathroom mirror, and laptop after putting away her groceries. I cry at my kitchen table for no reason after unpacking and eating crackers. Next 2 days, tears flow intermittently while I dress, watch TV, or brush my teeth. I grieved my father's love for 10 years when he lived 15 minutes away. This is worse than if he died, since I could blame fate instead of his choice. Sophia checks on me every night and brings more food despite the full fridge. She holds me and gives me tissues while I cry, saying grief hurts this much. 2 days after arriving home, I see Dr. Peterson for my first therapy appointment. Simple brick building with small parking. I wait 10 minutes in my car before entering because it seems like admitting I need help unable to provide. The waiting room has bad seats, no one reads periodicals, and a white noise machine that makes you feel alone yet muffles everything. Dr. Peterson comes fast. I prefer a 50-year-old woman with gray hair and good eyes who doesn't pity me. The chair seems like TV treatment, so I picked it over her office couch. I tell her what brought me here, starting with the birthday party, then the breakdown, then realizing I need to explain why. I talk for 20 minutes about being 10 and seeing my mother leave, David teaching Michael driving but not me, and every Father's Day when I worked hard but got nothing. Dr. Peterson does not interrupt and takes notes, but she stares at me like she's reading. She pauses before asking what I want from my relationship with David. After we discuss, he's shown he won't love me the way I want, so the question surprises me. Because saying love out makes it more genuine, my voice cracks. Looking ahead, Dr. Peterson considers reality versus mistreatment. She adds, "I can understand David's constraints, that my mother's actions hurt him, and probably always will, while avoiding his rejection." She suggests I picture a relationship with him if I set appropriate limits instead of trying to earn his love. The notion loosens and tightens my chest, combining freedom and terror. Quitting acting gives me freedom. Don't strain. Stop waiting for him to notice me. Fear because it means giving up after 10 years. Accepting that my father-daughter relationship would never happen. According to Brooks' journal, optimism that accepts damage is harmful. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is grieve what we'll never have, so we can build something different with what's actually possible. I leave her office drained and lighter, like I've been carrying something I couldn't abandon. Michael calls that night as I cook Sophia's frozen lunch. He is hesitant to mention David has been pleading with him to meet to apologize and explain, I think, while watching my dinner cook in the microwave when Michael asks what I want him to say. Inform Michael that I'm not ready to see David and that his presence is upsetting. Read Dad's letter if he writes something he can contemplate before responding. Michael will transfer it, but he says Dad can't write or express himself. I feel like Michael is preparing me for letdown with his doubts. Michael arrives at my place 3 days later with a suspicious letter. He hands it to me softly. His stance suggests he's read it. I grab one page from the envelope. Like he seldom wrote by hand, David's handwriting was clumsy and erratic. His 3-paragraph letter opens with admissions of error. He claims seeing me collapse scared him and made him realize he's been too hard on me, he should have done better. Double read it for more. The 10 years are somewhat acknowledged. Everything in the letter focuses on his feelings, experience and sorrow, from his anxiety as I slump to his divorce anguish to seeing my mother's face every time he looks at me, for excluding me from the celebration, or for rejecting me forever in his kitchen. There's no apology. Michael waits nearby while I set the mail on my coffee table. He seems weak and defensive, like he's justifying his behavior. Michael told David the letter needed revision, but Dad submitted it. At my next visit, Dr. Peterson carefully reads and highlights the letter. She presents David's justifications, stating he was too harsh instead of rejecting me and focused on his fear of my breakdown instead of the anguish it caused. Dr. Peterson inquires about my needs beyond the letter. I wanted him to confess fault. Not only his poor management. We needed him to declare I didn't deserve his rejection, that I looked like my mother, and that his unresolved grief deprived us of a father-daughter relationship. Dr. Peterson suggests I write a response letter outlining my requirements, whether I send it or not. She says, sometimes writing what we wish we could say helps us understand what we're actually asking for. My response letter takes 2 days and several kitchen table edits. First version is too excellent. Trying to console David for being a lousy dad. Discard and start again. Second version rages. Pages of rage at how he looked through me like nothing. Neither does it feel right. Third drafts are more real. Despite his survival, I write about losing both parents at 10. About seeing him celebrate Michael without recognizing me. About the birthday party being the final sign that I will never be enough. My dad should have separated me from his ex-wife, and he's to blame. I needed him. His anguish didn't excuse his damage and he chose pain above his daughter. Even if I'm crying by the 4th draft, the words fit. Focused on honesty, not protection. Before sealing in an envelope, print and read it 3 times. Michael comes over and I make him read the letter. He gets teary halfway through the first page while reading on my couch. After finishing, he carefully places the letter and admits he never knew how bad it was for me. He didn't realize Dad's harshness was rejection because Dad was at family meals and holidays. Physical presence without emotional connection may be worse than absence since it reminds you of what you're missing. Michael wipes his eyes and apologizes for being the favorite and not speaking out. He returns the letter to the envelope and guarantees delivery without inquiring why a favorite was picked. Michael should tell David that I don't anticipate a quick response, and that he should consider what I said before replying defensively. Michael says he'll tell Dad how partiality injured us both, even though he was the beloved kid. He's been reading about family dynamics since my collapse, and realizes he benefited from the system that injured me, making him complicit even though he didn't establish it. Michael leaves with my letter. And I'm relieved to have spoken all, and frightened for what happens. After 2 days, Michael calls to tell David wants to answer my letter. Since I need air for our talk, I answer his call outside at work. Michael says he advised David to wait before talking. Response letters are fine. But nothing more. Michael calms down after describing David's response to my letter. Dad cried, reportedly. Michael didn't realize how much he hurt me and can't fix it. David claimed he cared despite his inability to show it. He thought I understood his coldness was for my mother. Michael is unambiguous that Dad's tears don't restore 10 years of damage and that crying is the minimum response to emotionally abandoning your child. Thank you, Michael, for being honest and respecting my David boundaries. After we hang up, I sit in my car in the work parking lot wondering if David's tears mean anything, or if they're just another attempt to portray my letter as about his sadness rather than his hurt. I must see Karen. She texts me to meet for lunch at a diner near her hotel the next day. My hands shake as I drive, unsure of what she'll say, yet eager to hear it. I spot her at a booth, smaller than usual in holiday clothes. When she stands and holds me longer, my chest relaxes. She swiftly delivers coffee when we sit. David and she talk every day since the party, like she should have years ago. He discusses his divorce pain. My presence revives it. Karen says she regularly interrupts and wants him to focus on my pain. 10 years of father rejection. Her behavior disturbs David. He becomes defensive and says she doesn't understand my mother's leaving. Karen claims she's repeating himself. She says David tears throughout these talks, wondering why everyone is against him. But it doesn't explain what he did to me. Karen claims no one opposes him, finally revealing what they saw him do to his daughter. She's disappointed with herself for being quiet for years, expecting time would soothe him. She says she enabled him by pretending everything was normal at family gatherings. She seems distraught when I question why she's doing this. She says watching me fall in his kitchen taught her about silence. She'll hold David accountable even if it ruins their relationship, because she'd sooner lose her son than see him injure his daughter. I visit Dr. Peterson next week for routine care. I tell her David's first letter was unsatisfactory since it focused on feelings rather than pain. Dr. Peterson inquires about David's responsibility. My needs go beyond apologies and tears. Since I've never considered it, I don't know, I expected him to somehow become my father without saying so. Listing begins when Dr. Peterson brings a notebook. I want long-term behavior change, not just emotional reactions to conflict. Never degrade me by suggesting I look like my mother or Michael. I need him to remember anniversaries, holidays and other events without asking. Dr. Peterson brings new insights to this. He should apologize for some childhood events, she thinks. He should focus on his unresolved grief in treatment instead of me. He must work hard for months, not weeks, before I take him back. She replies to me, David may not be capable of meeting these requirements. Some people aren't willing or able to do the deep work required to change patterns that have lasted 10 years. She says to anticipate David to struggle for a period and then give up when it becomes hard, or to meet certain criteria but not others. Dr. Peterson feels the most essential thing is setting and following my limitations, even if it means accepting that a relationship with my father is impossible. Sophia joins me that weekend to record these healing insights. We set boundaries and conditions for future contact with David at my kitchen table with her laptop. Sophia does a great job simplifying my complex ideas. We require David to attend bereavement and family therapy for 5 months before I consider regular contact. He should apologize for missing my high school writing award ceremony and ignoring me at my college graduation. He must try to see me as distinct from my mother, which means no more comments about my appearance or conduct. Since private apologies don't matter if he's cold to me during family functions, Sophia suggests demanding how he treats me in public. We stipulate that he must observe birthdays and holidays without my prompting. The list comprises 2 pages with clear criteria. Sophia says something startling after rereading. She replies, I don't want him flawless or changed, I want basic respect and a genuine attempt to mend his mess. She says, if David can't meet these requirements, then he doesn't deserve to be in my life, and that's his loss, not mine. Let Michael give David the list. Michael reads it attentively, nodding sometimes, then folds and puts it in his jacket pocket. I'm nervously waiting at home while he goes to David's that night. Michael updates me an hour later. He says David read the list twice silently at his kitchen table, overwhelmed. He finally asked Michael whether the requirements were negotiable. Michael rebuffed him, stating I must meet these standards to date him. David wondered what he could do now to demonstrate his commitment to change. Michael recommended David to see a therapist immediately and stop stressing about his repair deadline. Michael agreed with my list and told David that if he can't meet these essentials, he doesn't deserve me. David grew defensive, saying certain rules were too strict. Michael swiftly declined, telling David that 10 years of rejection is terrible, and my list merely requires basic human decency. David didn't argue again. Michael put the list on the kitchen table and told David to consider if he could do it since I won't take shortcuts. Michael appreciates me for being honest about my needs and promises to help me with David no matter how uncomfortable. I returned to work 2 weeks after my breakdown. My supervisor knows I experienced familial stress-related medical issues. Go at your own pace and ask for modifications, she says. My co-workers, who know me well, see something wrong right away. I'm more cautious now. I've landed, so I feel more anchored. I tell a few people I was hospitalized after fighting with my father. Like their support without nosiness, family is less overwhelming at work. Sitting at my desk and doing basic activities seems normal. I like the consistency and knowing people expect me to be competent and professional, not broken and dramatic. My manager says I'm different, but good, after my first week back. She adds, I'm setting boundaries with troublesome customers and not letting them overpower me. I agree with her. Confronting David altered things. Stop accepting little respects. Isabella texts me my second week back at work. David has never recognized he needs treatment, so everyone is startled he's calling family members for referrals. She says the family is waiting to see if he follows through or if this is a temporary reaction to being addressed. Isabella says several family have phoned David directly to denounce his treatment of me. Our aunt had a long conversation with him about how she's ashamed of his years-long abuse of me. Our uncle informed David that excluding me from the birthday party was unjust and uncomfortable. Isabella adds the family feels David must change substantially to repair these relationships. No longer alone. Silence makes people complicit, so they speak up even when it's hard. Isabella regrets not communicating sooner and publishing the party invitation without considering my safety. I'm not mad with her. There was no invitation problem. David's invitation showed my exclusion. Michael says David started therapy 2 weeks after I told him my requirements. He visits a family and bereavement counselor monthly. Michael says David sometimes talks about the session, admitting it's harder than intended. The therapist is helping him understand things he's ignored for 10 years and how much of his rage at my mother went to me. David told Michael he realizes he never addressed the divorce. He concealed his feelings and kept us apart. Michael is cautiously optimistic but practical. He says 2 weeks of therapy can't restore 10 years of damage. David's long-term dedication, readiness to do real work, and willingness to leave when it gets hard must be considered. Michael often checks on David's therapy and schoolwork. Michael was startled by David's consistency. We know weeks are different from months or years of regularity. Michael kept track of things so I don't have to talk to David yet. After years of quiet on favoritism, Michael says he's happy to do the least he can. This is covered in my Dr. Peterson sessions. She believes we should prioritize my healing above David's. I cannot rely on his therapy or cooperation for mental health. Self-compassion and rejecting the belief that I must earn parental love are the first steps. Dr. Peterson requires younger self letters. A 10-year-old child loses her mother and then her living father. If I could go back in time, she makes me wonder what I would tell that child. I cry every time I read these letters aloud in therapy. But it transforms me. I'm discovering David's rejection wasn't about my worth. His inability to control pain was always the issue. He allowed his unprocessed grief influence me instead of recovering from my mother's betrayal. His decision and failure, not mine. Dr. Peterson says, this understanding is crucial because it means I can stop trying to fix myself into someone David can love. I was always lovable. He was just too damaged to see it. I tell Michael I won't attend Thanksgiving with David. Sitting at a table with him pretending everything is okay makes me queasy. Michael understands but is uncertain about the holiday. He wants to assist me and stay in contact with David, especially now that he's changing. Michael will see David for an hour before eating Thanksgiving with me, Sophia, and others. Michael tells David he must accept sharing time. Karen calls to say she's spending Thanksgiving with my family instead of David. She claims to be telling him her year's priorities. David became angry and stated everyone is abandoning him when she told him Karen defined it as consequences for your actions. I feel less alone and like everyone's problem because Karen, Michael, and Sophia spent the holiday with me. He may finally understand what he did to me. My Thanksgiving is the best ever. Sophia's apartment hosts a few friends without families. Michael and Karen come after Michael's brief discussion with David. We overcook and laughed at our poor cooking. Someone suggests we walk around the table and express thankfulness, which is cliched but works this year. When my turn comes, I appreciate the collapse. Everyone's surprised. But passing out in David's kitchen revealed everything. All dysfunction became obvious and inescapable. I thank those who supported me in the hospital and after who didn't make excuses for David or push me to forgive and move on. Sophia cries and takes my hand. Michael appreciates my presence and that I told him how bad things were. Karen gives me fresh David childhood stories. She mentions his tenderness, deep emotions, and tears during sad movies. She says someone trained him to put all his feelings into anger, which wrecked our relationship. These stories help me hold David accountable and relieve some anger by showing him as a flawed, genuine person, not just the father who rejected me. The night fills me in ways other than food. My interactions with individuals who see and select me are more significant than obligation or guilt. David's handwritten white envelope comes in my mailbox the day after Thanksgiving. Unsure whether to open or discard, I keep it at my mailbox. Sophia is cleaning up from yesterday so I could toss this away without saying anything, but I open it, sketching a turkey card in David's messy handwriting. He's glad I'm alive and in therapy, but he has to improve as a dad. Michael calls that night to report David spent most of Thanksgiving at Karen's but left early, without eating. Michael says David looked uncomfortable the whole time, like he knew his actions have consequences and nobody would pretend everything was wonderful to make him feel better. I keep the card in a drawer and ignore it. Cold December weather makes you want to stay inside all day. Michael takes coffee to my house on Saturday afternoons and says David asked his therapist about family therapy. He wants to know whether I'll agree to strengthen our connection. David should start by adapting sustainably. 2 weeks of therapy can't erase 10 years of rejection. Michael nods, confirming he informed David. At my next visit, Dr. Peterson believes family therapy can help if both sides want to improve. She cautions against pressing the victim to reconcile before they're ready. Therapists may rush forgiveness because it seems progress. I say I'm not ready, and she says all right. David's next move becomes secondary to my recuperation in December. Every Tuesday night, Sophia and I cook different recipes and discuss our weeks. She talks about work and dating while I chat about therapy and slow self-reconstruction. Michael arrives more often and we talk more. Since David still attended family events, he didn't realize how much it hurt. Physical presence without emotional connection may be worse than absence since it reminds you of what you're missing. Michael goes silent and claims he should have spoken up years ago, contributing to the predicament. Karen checks in with me every few days without mentioning David. Discussing her Florida friends, reading club, and treatment. Having family that prioritize my well-being without conditions is novel. Michael says David attends treatment weekly in December and takes it seriously. His therapist gives him homework and he reads about familial pain and loss. Michael thinks David made a breakthrough in mid-December by linking his rejection of me to his buried hatred of my mother. The therapist revealed that he's been punishing me for her decisions and treating me as his ex-wife instead of me. David cried constantly during the session, according to Michael, a first. This makes me question whether it changes anything, or if David is finally facing what he should have faced 10 years ago. David asks Michael for a longer letter 2 days before Christmas. My response is questionable, but I'll read. The Christmas Eve letter seems heavy in this huge envelope. Open it at home alone. I don't sip tea on my couch while reading. His letter is quite different from his first. Specifics, not defense. David remembers missing my high school writing award presentation because he worked. Despite Michael's basketball games never coinciding with his schedule, he barely spoke to me at college graduation. Watching other parents hug and snap pictures from across the room. Additional events are included. David claims that years of small rejections rendered me irrelevant. David apologizes on page 2 for worrying about his daughter. He says treatment shows him how he had me carry his unresolved pain and a symbol of his failed marriage instead of his baby. Leaving him out of my life won't hurt him if I never want to date him. He says his rejection wasn't about me and that I didn't do anything wrong by looking like my mother, speaking like her, or proving she loved him. David concludes the letter by saying he'll keep the therapy regardless of my forgiveness and that he must improve for himself, not for me. Second and third times, I read the letter crying. Dr. Peterson notices it during my post-Christmas therapy. She carefully reads it and notices that this letter displays accountability without prioritizing his feelings. Reading it validates, grieves, and inspires me, I tell her. David confessing he failed me confirms my feelings I couldn't communicate. We miss the years and father-daughter bond we could have had if he'd managed his grief better. A cautious hope suggests change, which is risky. Dr. Peterson reminds me that a good letter won't compel me to reconcile, but it may help me decide with David. The last calm Christmas day was years ago. I cook too much and watch old movies with Michael, Sophia, and Karen in his flat. Karen says she called David for an hour. That morning later that afternoon. She begged for my forgiveness, saying he's hurting from what he lost. Karen couldn't tell me, but she recommended him to continue treatment and follow my timeline rather than forcing reconciliation. Sophia wins Scrabble after supper and celebrates. I understand I can just exist and spend time with people who want me here without trying to win David's attention or prepare for his harshness. Nighttime cold in early January freezes my apartment windows. I rewrite my response to David's letter at my kitchen table on Saturday morning to get the tone correct. I appreciate his labor and responsibility. No direct touch yet, but I'll reconnect if he keeps treatment going and makes improvement in the coming months. To be clear, I demand respect. That comparing me to my mother or holding me liable for his sentiments will undermine reconciliation. My standards include consistent treatment attendance, acknowledging his impact, and listening without judgment. Michael takes the letter from my flat on Sunday and promises to give it to David that afternoon. Later that night, he emails me. David read it multiple times and seemed both relieved and sobered by the conditions I set. Michael adds, David told him he's grateful I'm keeping the door open, even a crack, and that he must work hard to repair what he lost. David asked his therapist to explain ongoing progress and how to show it with actions. My treatment with Dr. Peterson changes in February. We process bereavement weekly in her office. My missing father and David's rejection. She challenges me to imagine a wonderful father-daughter relationship. We then examine David's ability. I'm learning to balance two truths without letting one prevail. David wants to change after 10 years of hurting me. I don't have to pick since both are real. My fury toward him lessens. Not because I'm forgiving him. I'm building a life without his love. He says, This is what healing looks like when you stop waiting for someone else to fix what they broke and start building something new for yourself instead. Michael sends David's mid-February email after verifying my receipt. A concise, intelligent request message is issued. His therapist recommends occasional emails to restore touch without pressure. He wants to ask but won't before I'm ready. Before emailing Dr. Peterson for input, I stare at it for 15 minutes. In my next session, we examine pros and cons, and she comments that David seeking permission rather than approaching me shows boundary awareness. Given his treatment progress, she thinks it's okay if I set frequency and topic limits. I'm willing to try weekly emails with some ground rules. No guilt trips, no comparing me to my mother, and if he breaks these rules even once, I'm done. He praises and agrees within minutes. 2 days later, our first serious email is awkward. He mentions therapy and asks about work. I briefly outline my proposal and ask about his house upgrades. We're not sobbing or yelling as we speak nicely like strangers. David contacts me every 2 weeks for 6 weeks, and his writing style varies. He asks about my themes, like listening and remembering. After I tell him about a difficult customer experience, he asks questions instead of talking about himself. Therapists are teaching him to listen and be engaged, not defensive. I observed him practice. The emails are professional yet more genuine than any conversation we've had in years. Michael claims David reads these letters multiple times before responding and asks whether his opinions are okay. Michael says David retains a folder of our letters and reads it throughout treatment trouble. I'm starting to relax, but I'm always watching for him to revert. Regular conversation with David without feeling guilty is odd. Late March finds me at my desk when David sends a strange email. After 3 months following my collapse, he writes that he knows he can't ask for more than I'm giving, but he wonders if I'd meet for coffee in public with Michael as a buffer. He'll keep treatment if it's too much. I ponder responding to the email for 2 days. I spent a whole session with Dr. Peterson discussing my concerns about seeing David again. She helps me limit the meeting to 1 hour and set boundaries. I practice leaving or altering the subject while she plays David saying hard things. She continuously reminds me that I may leave if I feel disrespected or overwhelmed and that agreeing to coffee doesn't commit me to anything after that hour. Sophia requires I email her after the meeting to confirm my safety. After emailing David, I accept coffee on terms. Saturday morning I attend a cafe across town we rarely visit. Michael is at a corner table waiting for me, looking almost as nervous as me. 5 minutes later, David comes with an unfamiliar face. I've never seen him so scared of rejection. His voice shakes as he thanks me before sitting down and admits how hard this is for me. Our first 10 minutes of coffee talk are on weather, traffic and other safe topics. Michael speaks first, filling awkward silences and averting conflict. David listens instead, then speaking after inquiring about my job. He keeps his ideas and progress private. After 45 minutes, I quit counting down to go. After we're done, David asks whether I'd do it again. I say maybe. Not sure, but maybe. My most honest comment to him in years. Michael calls me that night to tell David cried after the meeting because it went better than planned, and he was frightened I'd stopped communicating. Michael says David's therapist is managing his expectations and trust repair takes time. David says he doesn't get to choose reconciliation speed and that my desire to try is a gift he shouldn't ignore. I tell Michael I'm glad David understands and isn't acting like one coffee meeting fixes 10 years of damage. The transformation in David in a few months surprises Michael, who never believed his father could be so self-aware. April came more emails and another coffee meeting without Michael, which I suggested after the initial meeting went well. David and I talk for over an hour across the cafe. He describes his treatment and how his father was cold and uncaring and never trained him to handle suffering. In a session, he admits to punishing me for my mother's actions since he couldn't contact her. Speaking about my treatment to reclaim self-worth after years of needing to earn basic affection. The conversation is different, like two adults trying to understand one another rather than a daughter asking for leftovers. I enjoy that David is learning to let me lead by not asking about next time as we depart. Karen calls a few days later to praise my David managing. She believes she's setting limitations and being open to possibility without sacrificing her well-being to support him. Karen believes David has changed unexpectedly in recent months. He takes responsibility for his emotions and endures discomfort instead of lash out. The transition feels real, but she emphasizes that he has a long way to go and setbacks are probable. Karen admits she didn't think David could develop so much at first. Seeing him work has been surprising and motivating. David invites me to a small family supper for Michael's birthday in early May, just Michael, David, Karen and myself. I decide to come after a day, but if I'm uncomfortable, I may leave without guilt. Michael takes me to David's house, where I haven't been since I collapsed. Dinner is fine despite being weird. David wants to know about my life. David tells me a childhood story while discussing Michael's new job, something about Michael winning baseball. David realizes halfway through that he praised Michael's wins but disregarded mine. He apologizes mid-sentence rather than arguing self-awareness and learning to identify his past mistakes before they hurt me, feel like progress. David promises to give me something after dinner and heads to work. He brings a self-made photo album. Not a family album. When ready, he hands me it to read. Within are childhood photos never viewed. Summer porch reading during my 8th grade graduation piano concert at 10. I never seen his photographs. He filmed moments without looking at me. He observed me while he couldn't help. David has been sorting through old photos in therapy to separate his memories of me and my mother. His therapist helps him look at photos of me at different ages and discuss them to see me as me, not his ex-wife. The album is soothing and mourns our loss. I watch it at home and cry, remembering a father who loved me but couldn't express it and kept my childhood while pushing me away. I put the photo album on the little table between Dr. Peterson and me for our next visit. She cautiously lifts it as if it will break and turns pages while I discuss David's treatment using ancient photos. Dr. Peterson pulls up a photo of me during my 10-year-old piano recital in a forgotten blue dress. She wonders how viewing David's unshared moments feels. I tell her it's hard because part of me is thrilled he kept them but upset that he was paying attention, yet rejected me. Dr. Peterson agrees, and says both are conceivable. She shows me that David's unwillingness to share these experiences in real time hurt him, but he knew he was making a mistake. We spent the rest of the session debating how to honor his current efforts while mourning my missing 10 years. Dr. Peterson believes healing doesn't include rejecting the past or pretending everything is okay, but rather knowing David and what kind of relationship is possible. She asks David what I want now. That's impossible. Thus I don't want my childhood father, I want a parent who is there, admits his faults, and respects my limitations without holding me responsible for his feelings. By late May, David and I had weekly emails and monthly coffee encounters. We're probably never close, but respect is growing. David attends therapy regularly and occasionally admits to working on his issues. Even though it won't replace what we lost, I'm cautiously optimistic that we may create a strong father-daughter relationship. His therapist helps him draft letters he never writes to work through his hate of my mother and remove it from his relationship with me. Michael calls me one night and says he's never seen Dad so self-improved. Michael didn't think David could change, but his weekly treatment and assignment completion astonished him. During a call, Karen praises David's persistence. She says she's been looking for signs he's changing to get me back, but she believes his work. Karen warns me that honest doesn't mean faultless, and David will fail, but the transition feels real. David invites me to meet for coffee in nice weather in the first week of June. I accept and we meet at the cafe. David fidgets with his coffee cup before speaking. He says he's considering what I need next. I take a moment and tell him that while I appreciate his efforts and want to keep connecting, some damage is permanent. He's changed, but my father's rejection as a child and teen will always hurt. Good thing David listens without defending. He tells me he must accept his mistakes and improve. He feels treatment helped him realize he can choose his present but not his past. The conversation tends to change when we accept reality instead of trying to force a fairy tale ending with perfect everything. David and I are closer than in 10 years, 2 months after our coffee meetup. This is also different from my childhood wish that he would wake up to see me instead of my mother. I talk to him regularly out of respect, not to seek his affection. I stopped waiting for him to be my father since he doesn't exist and never will. David still asks about my employment and recalls everything I provide in therapy. Still, I'm cautious and watchful for signs he'll revert to old habits, but I'm grateful for our imperfect growth. Sophia, Michael, Karen and Dr. Peterson commended my careful feat and reminded me that healing is ongoing. I deserve praise for defending myself during this process. Life isn't perfect, and David's work 10 years ago would have transformed our family. Sometimes flawed progress is the best hope. It may be enough now.